All right, time for the California weather forecast for January 13th. And we actually have some weather to talk about today. This is the day that we've kind of been talking about all week long, this storm that's set to move in over the next few hours, and in some cases actually looks like it's already arrived up in Northern California. You see all those clouds that have moved in there. Does look like there's maybe a little trough right there. That could be the front itself getting ready to move into California. So once that arrives, that's where we'll most likely see the heaviest rainfall, but it looks like it's going to take a while for it to get down to the Bay Area and then the Central Sierra. We'll look at the exact timing in just a moment, but I think the main thing that I want to put forward is this storm has been incredibly difficult to forecast. If you remember some of my forecast videos a week ago, it was saying that we're going to have nonstop heavy rain and heavy snow from January 11th to maybe January 15th. It was going to lead to 5 to 7 feet of snow up in the Sierra, multiple inches of rain for basically all of California. And then it seems like every single time the models updated, the storm got smaller and smaller and kept nudging farther and farther to the north. But much to our advantage, and it's a good thing it is this way, that the closer you get to the storm, the more accurate the models become. So the storms, there's the front right there. It looks like it's about to arrive, and the models that we're about to look at will be the most confident, accurate ones that we've been looking at all week. Looks like Robert's in the chat. How's it going? One of my favorite moderators right there. Yeah, so let's just get into the storm, see what's going on. First, I want to see if it's already arrived. So I want to see if we have some rainfall out there. I noticed the ground on the Central Coast was maybe a little wet this morning, but barely anything. I doubt anything even measurable. But it actually looks like there is some rainfall out there. Somehow it just missed the Central Coast. Maybe I don't think I was still asleep. But going into the San Joaquin Valley, there's maybe some periods of heavy rain in here. And remember, this is before the actual front has arrived. This is just some of the moisture moving in ahead of the front that's being pushed in by the winds. Does look like we have widespread moderate rain up in Northern California. Not seeing all that much of the yellow or the red, which represents very heavy rainfall though. So right now it still looks like it's, I would say, the beginning of the storm. So I think we'll go check out warnings first. That's usually a good way to do it, just to make sure we have a good idea on kind of where the most serious impacts could be, and right off the bat, just know of any hazards that might be out there. So that's something new compared to yesterday's forecast. Oh, also, apologies for not getting my short form video out yesterday. I ended up getting roped into a project at work. We're creating a bunch of new graphics that we're going to be using during our weather forecast. So I didn't have time for my short form video yesterday, but I purposely woke up earlier today, so I will get my short form done before I go to work so that there's no complications there. That's something new though. We didn't have a flood warning yesterday, but that's because the rain hadn't arrived yet. The darker green is going to be your widespread flood watch, but the flood warning is probably the first thing that we should look at right here. So flood warning in effect until 3 p.m. this afternoon, and that replaces the flood advisory. What urban area and small stream flooding caused by excessive rainfall is expected until 3. It's interesting they just say until 3 because, yeah, maybe the front moves down past this area of California at that point. So then the heaviest rain would be done. Guess we'll see that when we check out the timing. And then Robert also says light rain here, moderate winds from the south. Yeah, it's not even light rain in the Santa Cruz area just yet. We're still kind of waiting on it. Additional rainfall amounts 1 to 2 inches are possible in the warned areas. So that's our flood warning. That's the first thing to look at. Flood watch, I'd imagine they extend this one a little bit farther in time. So flood watch for the Russian River. That shouldn't be a tongue twister. Let's see. What flooding is possible? A peak stage of about 16 feet is forecast for the Russian River. When? From this evening to tomorrow morning. So yeah, you can actually see how that front's going to be moving down through California, where first it's a flood warning up here, then the front moves down, you get the flood watch here, and then last we checked yesterday, by the time it gets to the Bay Area, it doesn't look like it has the type of moisture or rainfall associated that would lead to flood watches, which is why we don't have the flood watches around there. There is this high... Is that a high wind? Oh, the high wind warning's actually over to the east of the Sierra, but that's out of California. I'm a California meteorologist, so we're going to look at the wind advisory instead. Wind advisory in effect from 1 p.m. this afternoon to 10 p.m. this evening. Southerly winds 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusts 35 to 40. That's nothing too exceptional. That's why it's a wind advisory instead of a high wind warning. Where northern and central Sacramento Valley east of Interstate 5. When? From 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. today. So that's most likely as the front comes through, you're going to have those windy conditions. Kind of curious to see how windy it is out there right now. Let's check our observations. You're going to be trying to look for the red on where you see the wind barbs. Yeah, it looks like it's southerly winds. Seeing a couple around 30 miles per hour. Oh, that one got 48. Their max gust today was a 51. So it's windy out there on the north coast. And then Central Valley, 23 miles per hour. Right there, their max gust today, 26 miles per hour. So it looks like we do have some very gusty winds on the north coast right now. But yeah, I'd say the real storm hasn't really arrived yet. Let's look at the winter storm warning. That was the pink. This maybe should have been the first one that I clicked on. That's in effect from 4 a.m. until 4 a.m. Sunday. So it's in effect right now. Heavy snow expected. Total snow accumulations of 1 to 2 feet. Winds gusting as high as 55 miles per hour. Not going to read everywhere where it is. I think it might be easier just to see anywhere where you see the pink. That's where we have the winter storm warning in place. And heavy snow is expected. Yep, 1 to 2 feet. Wind gusts as high as 55. I think if you take nothing out of this video, that's probably it. When through 4 a.m. Sunday. So that's, again, where the forecasts are a little bit different than they were originally. Where originally this storm was going to be over multiple days. It actually was originally 2 storms. There was going to be one that moved down from the north, and then an atmospheric river that came in from the south at the exact same time. And the atmospheric river would just keep going for multiple days. Now it looks like it's a pretty quick one. So that leads to less accumulations and less impacts. Although right there it says 1 to 2 feet of snow and 55 mile per hour winds. So that's going to have big impacts on visibility, road conditions. Definitely going to see chain controls. Most likely we'll see some road closures as well. This is always maybe the most important thing to look at is you say 1 to 2 feet of snow, but where is it 1 to 2 feet of snow? It looks like snow levels around 4,500 to 6,500 feet. So that's a lot higher than some of the previous storms we've had. The ones on Tuesday and Wednesday, snow levels dropped down to 2,000 feet because we were so cold. We were 20 to 30 degrees below average. This is tapping into some warmer air. So the snow levels are higher. That also just means it's not going to be as widespread. Heaviest amounts expected above 6,000 feet. Snow rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour. So that's pretty heavy snow. And when we look at the maps, you'll be able to see some... When you have light snow, it's coming in as light blue on our maps. But then when it shows purple, that's where you get the heavy snow. And we do have some of that. So let's check the... let's look at these graphics first. I always like these. So, heavy snow, timing through 4 a.m. Sunday. 1 to 2 feet of snow above 6,000 feet. 4 to 8 inches above 3,000 feet. Okay. So, although, yeah, this was updated January 13. So, it was updated today. So, it looks like the snow levels do go down to 3,000, but it's just a lot less at 3,000. Wind gusts as high as 50 miles per hour, and then snow levels locally down to 3,000 feet in Shasta County and 1,500 feet along I-5 north of Shasta Lake this morning. That's what I always like about doing this long form video as opposed to the short form. The short form is good because you get the gist of what's going on in California in a minute or less. You get kind of all the key points, and it might kind of pique your curiosity and give you an idea of if it's something that you need to look into further. But I like the long forms because you can get way more into nuance. Like in the short form, I'll probably say, oh, snow levels around 4,500 to 6,500 feet because it's a little bit warmer of a storm. But when you dive into the weeds, you could actually have some snow as low as 1,500 feet. Wouldn't have known that if I just did the short form video. So impacts, that's usually travel concerns, chain controls, near whiteout conditions where we're mixing 1 to 2 feet of snow, above 6,000 feet or 48 inches above 3,000 feet with wind gusts around 50 miles per hour. Lots of snow moving in the air, reduces visibility there. So snow forecast. Oh, interesting. Can't really see anything. So we'll wait to look at the snow forecast on our maps later. That's what I wanted to show, the major impacts expected. And yeah, that's a more graphical way to show the snow levels. Rain forecast. Curious to see how this updated. 2 to 3 inches, where we have that flood warning in place right now, down through the flood watch, maybe even locally more than that. I was looking at some of our models yesterday at the station, and one model was even saying as high as 7 to 8 inches of rain up here. So again, this storm, the one thing that's been consistent about this storm is how inconsistent the models have been. So there's definitely a large spread on these numbers. But since we're so close to the event at this point, this is the best the numbers have been that we have to work off of. San Francisco, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Sacramento, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Same for Santa Rosa. San Jose, around 1/4 inch. Yeah, it's not much in rainfall for the Bay Area and the Sacramento Valley. It's what you would call beneficial rainfall. Whereas some of the rainfall up in the northwestern portions of the state, that could be where you get into some of your hazardous rainfall, where you get more flooding out there. And yeah, looks like Roderick saying raining here in central California now. Yeah, we looked at that on the radar. It somehow skipped the central coast. I didn't see any of it. But yeah, definitely saw that in the Central Valley. Both in Sacramento and San Joaquin. Maybe more so San Joaquin. All right, wind gust forecast. This is something we looked at yesterday. As always, windiest up in the mountains, especially the higher up you go, some 50-mile-per-hour gusts there. These numbers have actually bumped up since yesterday. Now, Chico, 40 to 45. I don't remember seeing that yesterday. Same for Marysville. For the Bay Area, that's very similar to what it was saying yesterday. 25 to 30 miles per hour. So not a huge storm in terms of winds. Yeah, if it was a huge storm in terms of winds, we'd have high wind warnings. And we just have the wind advisory right there over Chico to Yuba City. That is, timing on that, 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. today. 35 to 40 mile per hour winds. That's not too crazy out there. So now let's check the forecast discussion. I think looking at those graphics, we got a pretty good idea of what's going on, but I always like to read the summary right here. A warmer storm system, yeah, that's why the snow levels have jumped up, brings widespread precipitation today. Significant mountain travel impacts are expected with periods of heavy snow and gusty winds. 1 to 2 feet above, 4,500 feet, 6,000 feet? And then wind gusts as high as 50 miles per hour. Drier conditions return later Sunday into early next week. And we might actually even have a little warm-up next week, getting back into the mid-60s in some places. Personally, I'm looking forward to that, although I know it's important for us to pick up some rain and snow because we're a little behind at this point in the year. Before we get to the maps, I do always like to read the Bay Area's summary as well. They're showing very similar rainfall totals, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. These actually go down through the Central Coast, 0.2 to 0.5 for Monterey. There's another perfect visualization of how quickly the storm tapers off. It goes from 2 to 3 inches up here. Big Sur, which normally gets a lot of the rainfall on the Central Coast because the rain shadow effect, you get a lot of rainfall as the clouds are created by the air moving up the mountains. Less than a half an inch, most likely. So not much there. So they're saying light to moderate rain with gusty southwest winds. Friday night through Sunday morning. Heaviest rain occurring on Saturday. When the front comes through, we'll look at the exact timing on that front. Higher potential for measurable rain in the coastal ranges of the North Bay. Yeah, you see a little yellow right there. Lesser amounts in the rain-shadowed valleys like San Jose, around 0.2 to 0.3. Okay. Any warnings for the Bay Area or Central Coast? No warnings. So that's some good news there. We can pick up maybe a half an inch to an inch of rain with no warnings. That's the best way to get storms. If we could just get a bunch of these storms instead of the usual that California has, which is massive atmospheric rivers, you get like 3 a year that leads to half of the state's rainfall, annual rainfall. This is the way we'd want to pick up rain around the Bay Area and the Central Coast. Now, with that being said, you do see a little yellow tucked in there, so we do still have the chance for some heavy rainfall at times. So I don't want to downplay the storm too much. Let's see. Roderick says, California has no idea what wind is like. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. 326 miles per hour. I didn't even know that was possible. All right, area forecast discussion for Bay Area, down to the Central Coast. Rain and wind, come on, highlight. There we go. Rain and wind return today into tonight as a cold front moves over the region. Fair weather will return early next week with warming temperatures, love to see it, and returning shower chances by midweek. I'm going to wait to go over that midweek storm until next week just because of how bad the models have been recently. I don't want to get down on the models, but they've been changing so much. It doesn't really do that much good to look at a storm more than 3 days out. And we have a storm upon us right now, so it's better to focus on that. So let's focus on that. Let's get to our maps here. Let's look at the overview of California rain, overview of California snow, then we'll dive into Northern California. And as I show the rain that's expected, you're going to see why we're not even going to cover Southern California throughout the day today. Storm's not making it down there. And when I show I could show the map right now for why that is. So this right here explains why the original models were showing 5 to 7 feet of snow, and now the original models are still saying a decent amount of snow, but it's much less, around 1 to 2 feet. So originally we were going to have another low move in off of the coast right here. So it was kind of 2 storms coming in at once. That's the low that's bringing the rain and snow throughout the day today. But instead of that other low moving into California and leading to what could have been our most significant atmospheric river of the year, instead this high has moved in. And it's this high that is nudging this low up to the north and not allowing it to come down into California. And you can actually just see how this works perfectly by looking at your winds right here. The high is rotating clockwise. The low, as you'd expect, is rotating counterclockwise. So that is leading to moisture being pushed into Northern California right now. That's why we have the flood warning. That's why we are going to see some heavy rain, especially once the low moves farther down. But it's this high that is blocking this low from moving further this way. So that's why when we look at the rainfall map, as we're doing right here, it's no longer moving down into Southern California. The high is blocking it. Looking at the rainfall totals though, looks like, decent amount up in the North Coast. Moderate amount, I would say, for our more populated areas like the Bay Area, Central Coast, and Sacramento Valley. Although I would say it seems like the models have actually bumped up a little bit around the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is, again, I would say good, considering we're still below average for this time of the year. Now, total snowfall, I think the 10-to-1 ratio will be more accurate on this one because it is a bit warmer of a system. So clicking through there. That's a pretty decent amount. Do we have our legend down here? Yeah, we'll look at the legend once we actually zoom into the NorCal maps. But it looks like the most snow is up in Northern California. Makes sense because the high is bumping the storm up north. But still a decent amount of snow in the Central Sierra. Not nearly as much snow in the Southern Sierra as the original models we're talking about. So now let's actually just get into the timing of this. Let's look at the NorCal rain rate. Thing I'm most interested in is when is the front going to move through Bay Area and kind of the Sacramento area. So clicking in. That's what the models say it looked like at 10 a.m. What time are we at here? Oh, 1 second. I'm going to grab my charger real quick. I have had my computer die in the middle of a live stream before. And we don't want that to happen. And I'm running on low battery right now. So, there we go. Hey, I made the screen a little brighter too. Alright, so that's what it looked like at 10 a.m. time, close to 1 p.m. So let's go to 1 p.m. Notice how the high is still keeping that storm up towards the north. That's why we have the flood warning up there through early afternoon. And then flood watch continues longer than that. The purple represents heavy snow, so that matches up with where we're seeing some of the largest snow accumulations. And then throughout the Sierra, that's still heavy snow as well. And that's a long period of time to be picking up the heavy snow. Finally starts to look like it shifts south at 4. So I can draw on here. Imagine there's the front at 1 p.m. And then if we click in right here, now there's the front at 4 p.m. So it is starting to move south. It's just moving south relatively slowly. We'll see if it falls apart by the time it gets to the Bay Area. Yep, it does. So that's 7 p.m. right there. Where you see yellow, that is still the chance for heavy rainfall, but it certainly doesn't look like that. That's your very heavy rain. That, it looks like the storm kind of just dissipates a little bit as it moves south. Not so much for the Central Sierra, though. It looks like it's still packing a punch up there. You see that purple? That represents your heavy snowfall. And then still getting some heavy snow as you get into 10 p.m. tonight, when the light to moderate rain moves down into the Santa Cruz Mountains. And then overnight tonight, it's going to continue over the Central Coast. Looks like it's mostly light, though. And then that's 10 a.m. tomorrow. It's already pretty much cleared up. So that's pretty interesting timing. I just want to click through that again. It arrived this morning. The front starts to move down this afternoon. By this evening, the front is over the Bay Area. We will have some windy conditions there, periods of heavy rainfall, but doesn't look like the storm is nearly as powerful by the time it gets to our more populated areas. And then we continue to see some scattered showers overnight tonight, maybe a few tomorrow morning, but it's basically wrapped up by tomorrow morning. So if you have outdoor plans for this weekend, Sunday's probably the day to do it. Maybe today could be the day you stay inside, get some chores done, read a good book, make a weather forecast. That's been my plan for the day today. So that's our timing. Let's check out the total precipitation. Kind of already looked at this, but I just want to see what the European model is showing. Up in the north where we had the flood warning and the flood watch, that's where we could see 2 to 3 inches. Chico, less than an inch. Sacramento, half an inch. Santa Rosa, around an inch. San Francisco, half an inch. And then where you see the purple color in the Santa Cruz Mountains, that's where we could see maybe 1 to 2 inches. Wouldn't rule it out, but overall I'd say beneficial system for the Bay Area, potentially hazardous up in the northwestern parts of the state. Now, because it's so warm, I'm interested to see how much snow these maps are showing. So clicking through here, that goes through Sunday. Storm's wrapped up mostly by Sunday morning. That, I don't know what color you call that. Looks like someone who's pale. Slightly orange? Salmon? I don't know. We're going to call it 2 to 3 feet though. And then more widespread around that is going to be your kind of burgundy color. That's going to be 1 to 2 feet. Looks like a nice little strip of that throughout the central Sierra. But down in the southern Sierra, which originally was showing more than 3 feet with this storm, is just in the blue, which is less than a foot of snow. Maybe more along the lines of 4 to 8 inches. So that's our snowfall. Now let's check the temperature anomalies, just because this will explain why our snow levels are higher. Remember with the storm on Wednesday? This map is showing what is your temperature compared to what it should be this time of the year. On Wednesday's storm, we were 20 to 30 degrees below average, so that's why snow levels dropped so low. And we picked up so much snow, even though it wasn't the biggest storm out there. Your snow ratios go up as it gets colder. So instead of 1 inch of rain leading to 10 inches of snow, with those really cold systems, 1 inch of what could have been rain leads to 20 inches of snow. So you don't need as much moisture to make as much snow, at least in terms of depth. Maybe not in terms of weight. I'd imagine that's always the same. But looking at temperature anomalies today, it's still going to be below average out there, about 10 degrees below average in the Central Valley, but up in the mountains, pretty close to normal, which is cold because it's January, but it's not as cold as Wednesday's storm. So that's why, again, snow levels are higher. Now we also talked about the wind gusts. Let's actually see those come through. You can actually see the low right there. That's the storm as it's going to be moving in. That's the high that's keeping it out of Southern California. And as you can actually just see how it's pushing up. You also see where some of this warmer air is coming from. That's making us not as cold as the last storm. It's coming in from the southwest here. So that's going to be warmer than if you just have a cold system move down. So there's the low. Yeah, you can see why it kind of just falls apart as it goes over to the Bay Area. That looks to be when the front is over us. That's 10 p.m. right there. You can actually see where those winds kind of cut through the Bay Area. Wind gusts at that point, 30 miles per hour. And for the Sierra, that's where it's going to be the windiest. Maybe some 40, 50 mile per hour gusts up there. And then that continues overnight tonight for the Sierra. Winds calm down for the Bay Area by tomorrow morning. Sierra will still have some windy conditions tomorrow, though, so that could still be maybe kicking up some of the snow that has come in. So I think that just about wraps it up. We looked at the rain, the snow, the timing, temperatures, wind gusts. I think the last thing that I need to see again is... where'd our nice little graphics go? And... the graphics disappeared. Alright, let's see if the Bay Area still has them. Nope. Alright, I just want to see where exactly the snow levels are again. Winter storm warning. Click in here. 1 to 2 feet of snow, winds as high as 55 miles per hour. Probably as good I'm reiterating this because it is the most important part of the forecast. Snow levels around 45 to 6,500 feet. Heaviest amounts expected above 6,000 feet. Snow rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour through 4 a.m. on Sunday. So the storm has already moved in to Northern California. The front is going to move through the Bay Area and then the Central Coast more so this evening. At that point, we could have some periods of heavy rainfall, but overall, for the Bay Area, Central Coast, most of the Central Valley, it looks like it's light to moderate rain, not going to be a major storm there. Similar story with winds, 25 to 30 miles per hour around the Bay Area and Central Coast. Sierra, there's 2 places where I could see our largest impacts. The northwestern portions of California due to rainfall and potential flooding. And then up in the Sierra due to the combination of snow, 1 to 2 feet, mostly above. I already forgot. Was it mostly above 5,000 feet or mostly above 6,000 feet? Can't remember, so we're going into... Now let's check the winter storm warning again. Heaviest amounts expected above 6,000, snow levels around 4,500. Too many numbers to deal with. So, flooding impacts northwestern part of the state, 2 to 3 inches of rain. Not much for the Bay Area and Central Coast, at least comparatively. I think it'll mostly be beneficial. But then up in the Sierra, 1 to 2 feet of snow. Snow levels around 4,500 feet, but the majority above 6,000 feet. Hopefully I said that right. And then we're combining that with wind gusts around 50 miles per hour. So we'll have some major travel impacts up there. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up the storm. Now I'm going to film a short form video before I get roped into anything else throughout the day today, because I want to make sure you guys get the summary of what's going on in California, get the gist of it, just in case you're just joining the live stream and you don't have time to go back and watch this whole thing. So stay tuned on that. I'll hopefully have that uploaded within the next hour. So stay safe out there, and thanks for watching.